which is building our own SVGs. So we're going to look at building some icons like these, which can be very useful if you want to create your own icons or logos and things to use on websites. So SVGs, first of all, are a type of image. They're an image type. They're different from things like bitmaps and stuff because they're not made up of pixels. They are made up of vectors. So they're made up of shapes. So things like triangles, rectangles, circles, or paths or lines. And you can combine them together to make your own graphics, which is very useful. The benefit of using SVGs over other image types is that they don't lose quality when you enlarge them. And that's because they're made up of these vectors, which when you enlarge them, like they use all these like mathematical formulas to make sure that their properties are preserved when you do enlarge them, which is great for things like graphic design because you don't want like images and things to be blurry when you zoom into them. So let's have a look at SVGs. Get rid of this. So we're going to first of all create this kind of hamburger icon. So you might have seen this before in like menu icons, especially on mobile and stuff. It's used very commonly to like open menus and things. And it's commonly referred to as a hamburger icon. So to do that, you can use an SVG tag. So that's how we actually create an SVG. And inside an SVG tag, we need a couple of attributes. So the first one that we need is a view box. So a view box is, it's kind of like defining the coordinate system that you want to use for your SVG. So you're going to define like where you want your coordinates to start and how many coordinates you want. So if I do something like this, this is defining like what the coordinates of the top left corner of the SVG should be. So I'm saying that the top left corner should be 0, 0. And then this is defining how many coordinates on the x-axis we want. And this is defining how many coordinates on the y-axis we want. So you can change this to any numbers you like. I don't think you can do negative numbers, but other than that, it should be fine to do anything. But importantly, this is not the same as like 100 pixels. This is not the same as the size the SVG is going to be. This is only defining like how many coordinates we want to use. So this is saying that we want to use 100 by 100 coordinate grid. It's not going to be 100 by 100 pixels necessarily. And then another property that we need to do is the height and width. So we can say height equals, we're given it over here, so 50 pixels, and width equals 50 pixels. So what this is actually saying is, I want to create a like coordinate grid of 100 by 100 to use. So all the shapes that we put inside our SVG will use this 100 by 100 coordinate system. So it will have to fall within this grid to be shown. And then this 100 by 100 grid will then be scaled. So then it fits 50 pixels by 50 pixels. So yeah, exactly. 1 pixel will be 2 coordinate units in this case. So if this was instead like 100 pixels by 100 pixels, it would be like 1 pixel equal to 1 coordinate. But yeah, like Jimmy said, it will be 1 pixel is 2 coordinate units in this case. So we're just taking our coordinate grid and scaling it to whatever height and width we select. Then inside our SVG, we have our actual shapes. So there are loads of different shapes that you can use. You can even create like your own custom shapes and all. For this hamburger thing, I think we could just use rectangles though, because it's basically just comprised of 3 rectangles. So we do it like this rectangle, and it takes a couple of attributes. So we need like a starting x coordinate. I'm going to say 20. Starting y coordinate, I'm going to say 20 as well. Oh yeah, I should say that like the coordinate system is like it starts from the top left corner. So like this is 0, 0. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis, and it goes along like here. So it's like 10, 20, 30, and so on. 10, 20, 30. So like it's a bit different from like normal coordinates. Yeah, so like if you have something like 80, 20, it would be like over here, which is different from how it would be in like Cartesian coordinates. So I'll start my rectangle at x equals 20, y equals 20 as well. We can always adjust these later if it turns out they are not what we want. We also can give it a height. Give it like 10 pixels, not pixels, 10 coordinates, and a width. We can give it like 60, and we can also tell it what fill color we want. So in this case, I can say fill equals white, and it should fill it in black. I'm also really quickly just going to give our SVG a border so we can have a look at like, where our shapes actually are inside the SVG. And just I refresh the page. You can see that this is a rectangle. It's been placed at x equals 20, y equals 20, goes along 60 pixels, sorry, 60 coordinates, height is 10, and it's been filled in black. And then because we need like 3 rectangles for our hamburger icon, we can just copy this 3 times and then modify some of the properties. So we can put this as like 25 and 70. Push this, and there we have it. We have our 3 rectangles. So there are plenty more properties you can apply to all of these shapes to do lots of things, but this is enough for the Any questions about that? Okay, so we're just gonna we guess the gap ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of this is just kind of like playing around with things. In this case, we're just trying to recreate like a sort of like hamburger design. So it really could be anything we want. We could have them closer together if we like, we could have them further apart. It's up to you. But yeah, you just kind of guess it yourself. So if we have like, and if we make this like 60 and 90 or something, it's like this. So you can see that like maybe we need less of a space here and less of a space here as well. So yeah, you can just go. Just to confirm, the width and height specifying rectangle is a coordinate with height. So yeah, that's correct. So if we start at like 0 and then have like a width of 100, let's just see. So that will span like the whole like box, even though our width is only 50 pixels. And similarly, if we have like a width of 50, that's going to be like half of the box, even though our width is 50 pixels, this is 50 units, which is half of our view box. Yeah, I hope that answers your questions. So we'll move on to the target then, which is like this. So instead of using rectangles, we probably want to use circles for this. So with a lot of like HTML and CSS stuff, there is no like one right way to do things. You can interpret them however you like. So in this case, we could interpret this as being 3 circles. So this could be like 1 black circle here, 1 white circle here, and another black circle here. Or we could interpret this as being 2 circles. So this could be 1 black circle here, and this could be 1 white circle with a really thick black border. I'm going to do it the second way as just being 2 circles, just so I can show you like how to do a border, but like you can choose to do it however you want. So for this, we're going to start out a similar way. We have SVG. We're going to use the same view box. So 0, 0, 100, 100. And same height and width, 50 pixels, and width is 50 pixels. And then we are going to use some circles. So circles have similar properties to rectangles, but they're slightly different. So we have CX, which is the center, the X coordinate of the center of the circle. So I'm just going to give it 50 because that's the 50 of our view box. And then I'm going to give it a center Y coordinate of 50 as well. So that's just the CY property. And it also takes in a radius. So I'm going to start with this center circle over here. No, actually, I'm going to start with this bigger circle. So I'm going to give it a radius of like, I don't know, maybe 40. We can change it later if we need to. And then we can give it a fill of white. And we can give it a, yeah, so that will basically create the circle. That's all we need for a circle. But we want this really big border too. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a stroke. So stroke basically means like border. It's like the outline. Yeah, I think outline is probably a better word for it. And you also have stroke width, which is like border width. So I can just give that maybe like a N. And we'll see what this. Yeah, so that makes a circle. I will just really quick give a border to our SVG. So that makes a circle. So the circle technically is in the center. It starts from the center here, goes out this far, this, and it has a really thick border, which we specify with stroke and stroke. Something to note about SVGs is that they are like whatever you write first will be rendered first, so similarly to CSS. So if I have another circle below here, it will be rendered after this circle, which means that if we have elements that are overlapping with each other, whatever's written like below will be placed like on the layer on top of this one, which is useful because in this case, we want to have this circle basically be on top of this circle. So if we write this circle below, it will appear on top of the other circle. So for that, I just basically need to do the same thing. The circle will have the same center. So 50, 50. Radius would probably be smaller, maybe we'll make it 10. And fill is black. In this case, we don't really want a border, but so, let's see, it appears over. So if I put this above instead, you can see that suddenly it disappears because this bigger circle is being rendered on top of the smaller one. So that's why we want it. Probably could be a little bit bigger, so we'll adjust the radius, and that looks like a pretty decent target.